Welcome to Module 9.2. This is about integration. This module is specifically geared to understand the complexities around how we integrate systems. So we're going to talk about things like enterprise application integration and message brokering, which are very, very commonplace today. We've talked about web services, so we're going to continue a little bit on that discussion. So you see a lot of the terms that we had talked about before kind of pop up again. So this is by far the biggest problem that CIOs face because they will end up with many systems. For those of you who remember the JCPenney case, if you've read the JCPenney case, if you've seen the JCPenney case on Blackboard, you'll know that the CEO basically said we reduced our number of systems down from 400 to under 50. And one of the things that they wanted to do was reduce the complexity. Well, with all that complexity comes a lot of systems integration. We have to move data from one system to another. And integration is very complex, it's expensive, and it's risky. Because when you do these types of integration projects, they could generally fail, or they could be putting wrong data into the wrong system. And that would lead to even bigger problems. So we can accomplish integration using three things. We can use database systems, which means we have a central database and we have two systems. And what we'll do is we'll put data in, and then this system will actually pull the data out so that we will know what data we're trying to transfer. That's one method of doing it. It's a little bit older method. It's not necessarily the preferred method, but again, that depends on what we're trying to do. Enterprise resource planning systems basically bring all the applications together from a single vendor. So you're talking your SAPs, your Oracles, your IBMs. It's a form of system integration. You get rid of best of breed in certain areas, and you buy an application that is best of breed across in terms of breadth instead of depth. And then middleware. Middleware is a little bit different because what middleware does is it allows us to send atomic transactions. And what an atomic transaction is, it's a small transaction like a request with a response. So for example, one might be, get me the weather for zip code 11549, say for Hofstra. It's a very small request. I will put that onto a messaging system and it will know where to go to. And that system will respond by putting something onto the messaging system, which will come back to me in what's called an envelope. And I will now basically be able to display what the weather is for Hofstra University. Typically, there is no silver bullet. Architects have got to look for what are the requirements, what's the cost associated, what's the skill set that we have in-house to actually do this. So there is no silver bullet to do this. We have to take them all into consideration. ERP aims to integrate a variety of systems together. The problem is they're brought with both high successes and high failures. In other words, some are just great successes that they were able to integrate all the various parts of a company, and some have just failed miserably. The average cost overrun is 179%. One implementation, and I'll leave the vendor out, basically would cost you about $1 million to implement the system as an average, and then about $4 million in consulting costs. So that's a huge outlay, and it's a huge risk because these are big systems to put in. Again, we talked about the business process reengineering when we put in ERP systems, and so that has a complexity, and it also has a consequence because it can affect the morale of the employees, not just of the developers in IT who are implementing it, but also the people who are doing the business processes themselves. So it's common to hold systems large size and complexity responsible, as well as too much attention to technical aspects. When we do these ERP systems, we're focused a lot on technology, and that may be a problem. We're not focused on the organizational impact of putting in these types of systems. Sometimes we are, sometimes we're not, but again, it depends on the CIO or the lead who's implementing this the system. Some of the ERP systems include SAP, Oracle, IBM. These are your big players, because these generally require a tremendous number of resources to actually put in play. Middleware, as we mentioned before, is systems that run in between. Most organizations have new and old systems from a variety of vendors and running on different platforms. So we may have systems that are 20 years old, some that are a year old, some that come from IBM, some that come from Oracle, and some that run, say, on Windows, and others that run on, let's say, a Sun Solaris or an AIX machine. AIX is IBM, by the way. Replacing these systems is not an option. Consider a company such as a health insurance company that has a 30-year COBOL system. It's not that easy to just pick it up and replace it. Other companies have tried to do it. A health insurance company in New England actually tried this and ran into some serious problems doing that. And it caused a significant amount of turnover in the upper management. In other cases, the system, say, in a hospital has so much data and has so much built-in knowledge that it's just hard to rip out. So you try and build systems on top of it that will integrate. Sometimes this is a problem because if you don't take care of the core problems, you could end up creating more problems than they're worth. So one option to integrate these types of systems is to employ a class of products known as middleware. And what they do is they work between the applications, allowing them to share data specifically. And there are a number of ways to do this, but it kind of it does act like glue, as the slide says. It's a standard way by which both systems are able to talk to each other. So as long as it's standard, both on a request response or what data and then pull the data, then it's a lot easier for the systems to basically be integrated. The complexity occurs in time. Yeah, how often does the data need to get replicated, and what does the data actually look like? So we may have a zip plus 4 in a zip code field in one system, but only a 5-digit zip code in the other. So how do you handle that? Those types of problems usually occur in integration. That's not something that the middleware generally can handle. That's something that business rules need to handle, which can then be applied to the middleware. So types of middleware used in client-server applications, I'll let you read this. This is, again, from your book, different types of things that can actually be done.